Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and here I am with another episode of Career Coach Office Hours. I like to spend some time on Tuesdays at 9:15, and it looks, I'm not sure, chat is working on LinkedIn. Darn, let's try that again. Tuesdays at 9:15 Eastern and on Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern, talking with you about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, a whole host of different things. Now, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube or watching on Facebook, send me a quick message. Let me know who you are, where you are. I like knowing who I'm helping. And if you have a question for me, you can put it into chat as well. So, again, identify who you are on chat. It does make me smile. Don't you want me to smile? I put a lot of effort into sharing information. So I do hope to see some of you there. And let me just remind you that if a question comes to mind between shows and you want me to respond to you, you can email me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours because it lets me know what it's about. I can organize my messages a little bit more clearly, yada, yada, yada. So, again, if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, just send me a quick note as to who you are, where you're located, stuff along those lines. I enjoy that. And T, thank you. Ron, thank you. Ramesh, thank you. Wen, thank you. And I'll just simply say, let's get to work. I've got some questions from people I received during the week. And good. How would you sell good writing skills in a job interview without putting people down? So, pretty easy. And I would say you come with your iPad with samples that are easily accessible where you can demonstrate your writing skills. In a resume, you might use the term, uh, good oral and written communication skills, so that this way they can evaluate you and they can bring that up, or just take it for granted and not really probe it, except insofar as how you express yourself on the interview. But I would simply bring an iPad with me, open to a couple of docs that relate to non-confidential, non-proprietary information. Now, if all you've done is write major reports for your organization, that if you shared would be problematic, pick a section that you're particularly proud of that doesn't reveal anything proprietary to demonstrate your writing skills. But if it will reveal something confidential, don't do it. Because I remember an interview that I had scheduled when I still did search. Someone went on the interview and they wanted to demonstrate their writing skills. And the file that they opened up had something on page one that said confidential information not to be shared. And this is what he's bringing to the interview. Makes no sense, not too bright, right? So I'll just simply say, be aware of what the impact is of what you do, and I'll simply say, don't do anything dumb. Okay. Let's go to the next question. How can an aspiring HR professional succeed in hiring the best team in their organization? So, number one, you don't hire. The hiring manager makes the decision. You may make recommendations, but let's start off with the premise of understanding at a deep level what this person wants, what the hiring manager wants, and how they're going to evaluate for it. What questions will they pose? And yes, some of this is going to be casual, but you have to confront people who will say to you, I'm going to ask some questions that make sense at the time. What kind of questions will you use to evaluate people? I don't know. And you want to start getting them pinned down. And I think what's useful is to remind them when you don't have a clear idea of how you evaluate and will assess people for your organization, and how the people you may have interviewed for the team are going to evaluate and interview people for your team. You come up against bias. You come up against ad hoc decisions without a real clear idea of what you're going to be evaluating for. The bias is problematic. And you can basically say, I'll call you out on it at the time, but I want to encourage you that not happen. And this isn't necessarily about a diverse population, although you will get a more diverse work team. But the idea becomes you want them getting clear about what it is that they want in a person and how they're going to evaluate for it, because the statistics are very clear. Within 18 months of a person coming on board, hiring managers have buyer's remorse about who they hired. For the employee, it happens much sooner than that. But the sample that I've seen is that within 18 months, they regret having brought a person on board in more than 60% of instances, almost 2/3 of the time. So I want to help you avoid that. I want to help you hire a great team that's going to help you succeed, help you look good so that you get the next promotion. Put it into their best interest rather than you being the controller. And that will help them understand that you're there to help them win, help them be more successful so that they can advance in their career. So that's the way I would approach it with a hiring manager. Is it good to mention your interviewer's name when you answer their question? You can't get ridiculous with this. And usually when I see a question like this, it lets me know that you're not an experienced person. So I'll simply say, when you're in a situation where you're being interviewed, if you constantly repeat the person's first name, well, Edward, this is what I would do. Edward, this is what I would say. Edward, Edward, Edward. And, Ramesh, this is a great idea that you're sharing with me. John, I'd really be interested in this. Sean, the constant repetition makes it look like a bad tactic. You can do it once or twice, wide spacing, but to use it as a way of connecting with people is going to put a wall up between the two of you rather than do what you want it to do, which is to really connect with someone. So with limits. I'm just going to remind you folks that I'm taking questions through chat. You can always put one in there for me, and I'd be happy to answer your questions tonight. With that, let's go to the next one. I've been offered more team lead responsibilities on the job. It's not a big team, just 4 in total, but it's a start. What are some team leader qualities I should exercise in teams this small? I'll remind you of something I learned, or I'll tell you of something I learned some years ago from another coach. And that is motivation is lighting a fire underneath someone. Inspiration is lighting a fire within someone. You have an opportunity here to practice your leadership with a small team. And that's what firms do. They start you small and work you way up. So part of what I suspect they want you to do is to manage, not just simply lead. So you have the responsibility for getting results done. So I always remind people that it's not about hitting people over the head to get things done. It's about connecting with people so that they want to get things done. And people at the beginning often lose sight of the human connection. So stay in contact with your team. You're being elevated, and that's going to make you a little bit different. Sometimes the remaining team members are in the situation where they resent you for being promoted and then being left behind. So it's important for you to connect as one human being to another, indicating I didn't make this choice. They saw something within me and gave this opportunity to me. I want to help you grow in your leadership so that you get opportunities too. Part of the way I did this was I performed at a high level. I want to help you perform at a high level. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me, but I've got a responsibility to get things done. And I want to help you learn and grow too. So again, it's about connection, not just simply bossing people around to get something done. Let me just take a quick look at chat for a second. And yes, Emily, you put questions into chat. I'd be very happy to answer them. I'm glad I looked over. Next question. What happens if you don't mention your salary during an interview? Now, in certain parts of the country, when they ask about salary, that's an illegal question. So if you haven't been asked about what you're looking for, it may indicate that they're not ready to know or they're not interested. Current salary, if they don't ask you about and you're in certain parts of the country, they can't legally ask. If you're at a part where it's still legal to ask, it may mean that they forgot. It may mean that they don't care. There's a lot of explanations for that. So I would simply say, wait, don't offer it up. Focus on what is going to make them fall in love with you. What's going to make them interested in hiring you? Deliver on that. Then the questions about comp will come. Again, if they haven't asked you about that, it may be an indication of lack of interest on their part. So, this all may be moot, but I look at it from the standpoint of don't offer up what isn't asked for. Focus on delivering what they do care about, and then the money surfaces as a conversation point later on. In my company, there are 4 sales teams. A newly hired person is promoted to team leader, and later on, a relatively senior guy is put underneath that new team leader. What would you do if you were that senior salesperson? I would, part of the reason they did that is they see you as someone who can help them perform well. Emily, I'm going to answer your question in a minute. I'm just going to answer this one first. They see you as someone who could help this person perform well. And I think part of the deal you want to make with them is to say, I want to learn what you got that made them want to put you in this role and not me. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions along the way. I'm going to try and observe and learn, and I want to help you win. If you win, I win. And I want you to be the best. I'm talking to you as the person who asked the question. I want you to be the best lieutenant to this individual you can be. Because along the way, you're going to have an opportunity to shine. And that's what you want to be doing. You want to stand out from everyone else so that in this way, you're promotable. This person wants to recommend you. And you'll be seen as an ally and someone with leadership qualities from the lieutenant position. So help them win rather than harbor any resentment. Before I take Emily's question, I'm just going to say, if you have a question for me, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it. Now, Emily, for you, I have an interview this afternoon. Yay! And I'm stuck on what to say about why I want to leave my current job, because it's the most toxic environment I've ever experienced. Now, Emily, I don't really know anything about you or the work that you do. And it's not important that I do that. But you don't want to hammer the current place is being toxic because you'll never explain it well enough to make them see it your way. They're just going to listen to you and go, okay, I think I dodged a bullet on this one. She or he is a complainer. You don't want to do that. Focus on the positive of what you're looking for. If they dig in deeper and they start going to the more details about the current workplace, I'll simply, you can say to them, look, I want to be critical of my current environment. I'm obviously not happy there. So I'm trying to focus on the positive of what I want from the next organization. I'll put in my time, I'll put in my dues, I'll do what I have to do to be effective in the role, blah, blah, blah. You know the speech, but I don't want to speak down about my current place, about my current manager. He or she is under a lot of pressure. They're releasing a lot of the pressure on us, but no matter. What I'm looking for is, and you notice how if pressed, I'm letting a little bit leak out, but not so much as that they want to fixate on it. And the other part is, it's not just what you say that matters, it's how you say it. So if you can speak casually about it, that really serves you because it doesn't make you seem like a lunatic. And hiring managers are always afraid of hiring someone else's problem person. So if you can seem, quote, normal as you present it, even with a big smile on your face as you talk about it, look, we're all under a lot of pressure. My boss is under pressure. He doesn't always handle it well. She doesn't always handle it well. It's tough being there during those times, and we've been having a long time with that. So I'd rather join an organization where my manager, you, are not going to lash out at the staff because you're under pressure. Notice I've taken that even one step further. So practice saying these things during the interview. And I'm also going to give you one bonus here. That includes the best question to ask on any interview and when to ask it. So whether you're on camera or in person, the best question to ask is the opening question for you. Not at the end of the interview, but at the beginning. As soon as you connect on camera and they say, nice to meet you, you say, hey, thanks so much for making time to meet with me. I recall the position description, but I want to get your take on the role. Could you tell me about the job as you see it and what I can do to help? And the reason you ask this question at the beginning instead of at the end when you might normally do it, the reason you ask this question is because job descriptions maybe are 80% accurate. So you want to hear the current thinking about the job at the beginning so you can talk about what you've done that matters to people and not just talk about what you've done. Let's see now. Okay, Emily's added something on to her question. Great. Problem is the managers keep leaving and aren't there anymore. Oh, we've had regular turnover at the management level. So every 2 months, someone else is rotated in and they rotate themselves out. The problem is when we get to review time, I'm talking to someone who really has no knowledge of my work. And the result is, how do they evaluate me as treating me as like anyone else? They don't have a perspective on me from over time. They don't know that, I've put in nights and weekends. Except I've told them I've put in nights and weekends. They don't have that personal relationship with it. So I want to join an organization that's run a little bit better, where I can develop a relationship with my boss, with you, and trust that you're going to be there for a while so that when it comes review time, there's a basis for evaluating my performance and giving me my due. Notice the more information I get, the more I can tweak that story. So, Emily, I hope you found that helpful. If there's more, just add it to chat. And folks, I'll just simply say, you're welcome, by the way. If you've got a question for me, put it into chat, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. I'd be very happy to answer your questions. I just did for Emily. Meanwhile, I've got a few more that others have emailed me. I already did that. While going through an interview process for one job, would it be okay to ask to be considered for another similar position? Only if you want them to turn you down for the first one. And if the answer is, I don't want that to happen, I just want to look at the second job. Well, on their side, they want to fill the first job before they get to the second job. And I'll simply say, if I were the hiring manager and the candidate wanted to know whether or not there was another vacancy they could interview as well, they take that as a message of lack of interest. So don't do it. Get further along in the process. If you talk to HR, you can say to them, I'm loath to raise this as a subject. I'm interviewing with Emily, and I understand there's another position open that's similar to this. How is it different than Emily's job? And thus you can hear the differences from the HR person and say, that sounds interesting. Would it have an adverse effect upon me if I asked to be interviewed for the second role? Not that the first one is bad, like I wouldn't take it, but notice my voice changed there. So what you do is you use your voice like an actor or actress would do and use it to sell, not to lie, to sell your idea. Not that I wouldn't take the first job, but what's the difference between the two? What's the difference in the managers, the team, the work? Help me understand the differences and whether the first manager might have a negative opinion of me if I interviewed with the second one. Got that? Emily, you're welcome. Happy to help. Come back next Tuesday. I'm going to be doing another episode. If you've got another question for me, don't hesitate to ask. Is it better to be a blunt, direct CEO of an enterprise which demonstrates a clearer purpose and mission, or someone that is seen to be liked by his employees? Why are they mutually exclusive? Seriously, why are they mutually exclusive? Why is it that you think you have to be one or the other? Again, usually when someone asks a question like this to me, I think of it as being someone who's never been in the seat before. So it's not mutually exclusive. What it is, as a leader, as the CEO of an organization, and again, I learned this acronym from someone else, think in terms of CASTLE. Courage, authenticity, service, truthfulness, love, effectiveness. So the courage to tell people the truth, being authentic, serving others, being honest, truthful with them. Show that you care, that you love your people, and be effective in your role. This is what you should focus in on, not this either or scenario. So the more you do either or, the more you wind up in a situation where you're fake. All these qualities reside within you, but you think you have to perform in a particular way to succeed. And that is the worst way to do it. Trust me, I've made this mistake. So put yourself out there. Courage, authenticity, service, truthfulness, love, effectiveness. Credit to Coach Lance Secretan. If you want to read one of his books, a fabulous one is called The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch. The metaphor represents finding the spark within you so that you can help it combust and burn bright and then carry a torch into the world. That's for you as an individual. That's so important. And then from there, as a leader, you want to select people who are inspired to do great things. You don't have to motivate. Again, I mentioned this earlier. Motivation is lighting a fire underneath someone. Inspiration is lighting a fire within someone. You want to hire people who are inspired to do great things. Reduce the friction institutionally that keeps them from doing it so that they can perform at a high level. Barring any messages in chat, I have one more here. If I applied for a job and my application status says hired, should I still go to my other job interviews? The answer is until you have an offer letter, you've got nothing. They could just as readily change that as anything else. So until you have an offer letter in hand, you have no legal proof that you've received an offer and that you have been hired. Maybe it's their intention to hire you. Maybe it isn't. They could always blame it on someone making a mistake with what they heard and then say, did we give you an offer letter? Oops. So don't put yourself at risk. Keep interviewing until you have the offer letter, because you may discover, number one, in addition to the fact that it's your legal protection, number two is you may find the other job is better. So keep going out there until you have the offer letter. So this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I'm called the Big Game Hunter because I used to hunt down leaders and staff organizations. Did it for a hell of a long time. And now I coach people to be more effective in their job search with hiring, with management, leadership, and resolving workplace issues. If you have questions for me, again, email me in advance of the show or just come back and put them in the chat. You'd email them to me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us, and there's a ton in the blog. Plus, you can schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help you, and I have courses that you can order through the website that will help you a lot. Lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't already done so at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.